Alrighty guys, well, welcome to the video. So today what I wanted to do is go over a fundamental change to the operating system that Windows made in an update not too long ago. And the reason why I wanted to go over this tweak and this change is because it has to do with a really popular tweak that other people commonly reference online, and it's known as the Windows Timer Resolution. Now, if you're not familiar with what the timer resolution is, it's essentially a really popular tweak where it'll look something similar to like this. You'll open up an application and then you'll set it to the maximum value, or you'll set it to a specific interval value that you're looking for. And so what this was supposed to do before the update had happened is that it would apply a global lowered precision value. And so it would set it to zero 0.5 milliseconds. And so, for example, inside of here, this is an easy demonstration of what this looked like. So if you had 4 different processes, A through D, if process C calls for a lower resolution of 0.5 milliseconds, that ends up applying to all of the other processes within inside of Windows. But with the actual latest Windows actual versions, this is no longer the case. And so the Windows versions that are going to be affected by this are going to be any Windows version that is made after Windows 10 version 2004, which was made in around 2020. This also applies to Windows 11, but Windows 11 has a specific tweak that you can do to fix this. But if you have Windows 10 versions 2004 and 22H2, this will no longer actually work for you. And so it's any version after that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys the specific tweak that's going to fix it on Windows 11, and then I'm going to show you guys how to set up the timer resolution. So inside of your actual registry, what you're going to want to do is go inside of here, go into HKey local machine, go to System, Current Control Set, Control, and then navigate down to the Session Manager, and then look for the kernel folder right here. And then what you're going to want to do is right click on the new and click a new DWORD 32-bit value. And you're going to want to name it Global Timer Resolution Requests. That is going to bring back the global application of the timer resolution. And so that's going to be the first fix. That's going to revert that and bring that back to the way it was supposed to be. Now, another problem that I forgot to mention, and this was a huge mistake that I made, but that's the reason why I'm making this updated video for you guys, is because I mentioned showing a different timer resolution application, which was Process Lasso. But I was made aware that this actually does not work, because what happens is that when you set the timer resolution and then you minimize it, Windows has a specific circumvention around this. And so he specifically mentions this. I'll give another shout out to Amit because, he has lots of good documentation on this. But what specifically happens is when you minimize it, this ends up not applying to the actual entire system. And so the only one that works is set process information. And this will actually honor that request regardless of if it's minimized or if it's running in the background or if it's on the main screen. And so I'm going to show you guys how to set this up, because that was the main reason why, is that this one wasn't going to work. And a lot of people were confused because when I left the link, I didn't do a very good job at actually explaining how to set it up and stuff like that. So what you're going to want to do is go into the timer resolution download, and it'll be the first one that I link in the description. And then you're going to want to go into the downloads, and you're going to want to download the MeasureSleep tool and the SetTimerResolution tool. Now, once you do that, you're going to want to go and grab the actual exe file, copy it, and then set it inside of your C drive right here. So for example, mine was in downloads. I'm going to take it into the local disk and then paste it inside of there. Now, once you do that, what you're going to want to do is create a shortcut. Windows is going to say, do you want to create a shortcut to the desktop instead? Click yes. What's going to happen is it's going to make an actual shortcut on the desktop. And then what you're going to want to do is, so for example, what it will look like is create a shortcut, yes, go over here, then go down to the bottom left and type in run, and then type in shell, and then startup with the little break right there. Can't remember the name of the symbol, but you can just see it on there. And then go ahead and hit OK. This is going to pull up the actual startup folder. Now, you're going to want to drag that shortcut into here. So once you do that, you're going to want to make sure that when you go down into the properties, that it says start in C folder or wherever you specified it to be. And then you're going to want to link that same start area with the exe. And then he also links the actual specific command that you need to use, or the actual target that you set. So what that will look like is if I go inside of there and then I go and change this. So I have it set to C, set timer resolution of 5040, and then you're going to hit OK. Now, that should apply at startup. And the way that you'll know that this works is that if you go into the MeasureSleep tool, you're going to run it and you're going to want to make sure that the value you specified in sleep is running accurately to the precision of 1 millisecond. The closer you can get to 1 millisecond, the better. Now, another thing that I forgot to mention in the video is that what you're going to want to do is stress test the actual timer resolution that you've set, because when you run a specific stress test, and I recommend using something like LinPack or YCruncher, because if you run them, you'll notice that the actual timer resolution is set to a higher value. So it will be set to 1.5 milliseconds or 1.4 milliseconds. And so it will be farther away from 1 millisecond. So the precision is essentially less accurate because we're putting more load on the CPU. And so that's why you're going to want to test it and make sure. So for example, I was fine at 5030, but I wanted to keep it at 5040 just in case, because if a stress test, for example, came up every once in a blue moon, I would get a report back of like 1.5 milliseconds. So run the tests, re-verify. Now, once you get done with that, now that we've made the target, we've created this startup folder, we've done all of that different stuff. Now what we're going to do is actually micro adjust the actual timer resolution. And so what that's going to look like is, as we see right here, he sets a value of 5 milliseconds and he gets a worse delta reading on here. So it's 1.4973 milliseconds. Well, when he actually raises the timer resolution to 0.507, you'll notice that it actually gets more precise. And so that's an example of what I'm doing here, is that mine accepts a value of 0.504 and yours might be completely different. Some people I've heard can have to set theirs all the way up to 0.51 when they're running an application. So it just depends on your system, and you have to make sure that you benchmark it because it can be completely variable dependent on a whole bunch of different factors in your system. And so, yeah, guys, that's going to be the way that you do it. So if we go into, for example, that actual startup folder, so if we just go back into there, we'll just go to run and then shell and then startup, and we go into the set timer resolution value. We go to properties. The actual value you're going to want to put into here, you just put into here without a decimal. So I just set it to 5040. Now, what you're going to want to do is when you're testing this, if it doesn't, for example, actually work when you rerun it, so if I just run it like this and press run as administrator, well, what you can do to fix that is if you go into actually the task manager, you can close the set timer resolution, and then you can reapply a different actual value inside of here, and then you can actually rerun the same thing, and that should honor the actual new timer resolution value. So you're going to want to keep increasing it slowly and slowly until you get a precise value, test it and value and make sure. And so yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you enjoyed the more detailed explanation about how to get stuff set up, because I know that was a request that the last video was heavily asking for. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you guys learned something. Please just consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help a lot. And yeah, guys, have a good one. My name's Savaterix, and I'm out.